Tell me to stop, tell me this is a bad idea, and I'll walk away.
Don't stop, I want you inside me.
The kiss was explosive, all tongues and teeth in desperate need. His hands were everywhere, in her hair, on her waist, sliding up her ribcage. She gasped into his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, kissing her deeper, harder, until she couldn't remember why this was supposed to be wrong. The elevator dinged. They stumbled into the hallway, still kissing, her back hitting her apartment door as she fumbled for her keys. His mouth moved to her neck, sucking and biting, and she moaned, her head falling back against the door. Linda. Her name was a growl against her skin. If you want me to leave, say it now. Because once we're inside. She got the door open, pulled him inside, and slammed it shut behind them. Hey lovebirds. Welcome to K-Whisper, where hearts cross borders and love speaks every language. I'm here to share the most heartwarming butterflies in your stomach love stories between Afro and Korean souls. From chance encounters in soul cafes to long-distance love that defied the odds. These are real stories that will keep you blushing, giggling, and believing in love all over again if you love romance, cultural connections, and stories that prove love sees no color or boundaries. You're home. Before we dive into today's story, hit that like button if you're ready for the feels. Comment below, have you ever had a cross-cultural crush? Spill the tea. Subscribe and ring that bell because trust me, you don't want to miss these love stories. We're growing our K-Whisper family to 3,000 subscribers. Every like, comment, and subscribe brings us closer. Let's make this the coziest corner of the internet for love story lovers. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let me tell you a story that'll have you smiling all day. This is K-Whisper, where two cultures meet and love always wins. Let's go back to the beginning. Linda's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. She heard it before she saw it. That telltale whimper that made every muscle in her body tense, that sound that could find her in a crowded room, across a parking lot, through walls and doors and the careful barriers she tried to build around this one perfect evening. The sound grew louder, more insistent. A baby's cry cutting through Puccini's aria and the gentle clink of silverware on china. Please God no. Not tonight. Across the candlelit table, Jae-hyun was mid-sentence, talking about his recent promotion. His eyes warm with interest, with possibility. He hadn't noticed yet. The other diners were still focused on their own romantic bubbles. Linda had maybe 10 seconds before. The restaurant's entrance doors burst open. Time seemed to slow as Linda's worst nightmare materialized in expensive leather and calculated fury. Min-jun stood silhouetted in the doorway, their 8-month-old daughter screaming in his arms, her little face contorted in distress. But it was his face that made Linda's blood turn to ice. That look of cold satisfaction barely masked by manufactured panic. Their eyes locked across the sea of white tablecloths and flickering candles. And in that moment Linda knew. This wasn't about Zoe being hungry or fussy or needing her mother. This was war. Linda. His voice carried across the restaurant like a gunshot. Conversations died. Heads turned. The romantic atmosphere shattered like dropped crystal. Linda, thank God. Jae-hyun's head swiveled, confusion creasing his handsome features. What's? But Linda couldn't speak. She could only watch as Min-jun strode through the restaurant with the confidence of a man who owned every room he entered, the maitre d' trying and failing to intercept him, other diners parting like the Red Sea. Every step he took was a countdown to devastation. 5, 4, 3. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Min-jun's tone was silk over steel as he reached their table, Zoe wailing against his shoulder. His eyes, those dark, dangerous eyes that had undone Linda once before, fixed on Jae-hyun with barely concealed contempt. But our daughter needs her mother. She won't stop crying. She's hungry. The words hung in the air like a detonated bomb. Her daughter. Linda watched Jae-hyun's face transform. Confusion, realization, betrayal, all in the span of a heartbeat. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to rewind time and cancel this cursed date. But all she could do was sit frozen in her red dress, the dress she'd bought specifically for tonight, while her carefully constructed house of cards collapsed around her. You have a baby. Jae-hyun's voice was quiet, dangerous. You have a baby. With him? It's complicated, Linda managed, her voice cracking. It's not complicated at all, Min-jun interjected smoothly, and Linda caught the hint of satisfaction in his tone. We have a daughter together. Co-parenting situation. Tonight was supposed to be my night with Zoe, but she needs her mother. He held the crying baby out toward Linda. Please, Linda. Feed her. She's been screaming for an hour. Zoe's cries intensified, her small arms reaching desperately for Linda. Every maternal instinct Linda possessed warred with the fury burning in her chest. She wanted to make him suffer, to tell him to figure it out himself, to protect what was left of this date. But Zoe was genuinely distressed, her daughter's tears wet against her cheeks, her little body trembling. Damn him. Damn him for knowing she could never refuse their daughter, no matter what game he was playing. With shaking hands, Linda took Zoe from Minjun's arms. The moment her daughter was against her chest, Zoe's cries began to soften, her tiny fists clutching at Linda's dress. I don't believe this. Jaehyun stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You lied to me. You said you didn't have kids. We talked for 3 weeks, Linda. 3 weeks, and you never mentioned you have a whole baby. I was going to tell you, Linda started, rocking Zoe instinctively. When? After we slept together. After I met your family. His voice rose, and Linda felt every eye in the restaurant boring into her. And you? He turned to Minjun. What kind of man ambushes someone's date like this? Minjun's jaw tightened, and for a second, Linda saw something flash in his eyes, something dark and possessive. The kind who puts his daughter first. Your daughter who conveniently needed her mother right at dinner time on Valentine's Day? Jaehyun laughed bitterly. He pulled out his wallet, threw cash on the table. You know what? You two deserve each other. This whole situation is insane. Jaehyun, please. Linda reached for him with her free hand, but he stepped back. Enjoy your evening. He grabbed his coat and walked out without looking back. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Zoe had quieted to soft whimpers, sensing the tension. Linda sat there, her daughter in her arms, her ruined date scattered across the table, and Minjun having the absolute audacity to lower himself into Jaehyun's abandoned chair. Get up. Linda's voice was barely above a whisper, shaking with rage. Zoe needs to eat. Get up. She stood, gathering her purse, her whole body trembling. Outside. Or I swear to God, Minjun, I will make a scene that will make this look like nothing. Something in her tone must have convinced him because he rose slowly, his expression unreadable. Linda walked out of the restaurant with her head high, even as whispers erupted behind her, even as the life she'd been trying to build crumbled with every step. 15 months earlier, the rain transformed Seoul into something out of a film noir, all shadows and neon bleeding into puddles, the city weeping along with Linda's broken heart. She shouldn't have been at that bar. Shouldn't have been on her 4th glass of wine. Shouldn't have been crying over a man who'd ended 2 years via text message like she was some casual hookup instead of the woman who'd rearranged her entire life for him. But there she was, mascara probably streaking down her brown skin, her 4th glass of Merlot warming in her trembling hand, her defenses demolished by heartbreak and alcohol. You look like you're trying to drown something, a voice said beside her, low, smooth, dangerous. Linda looked up and felt the air leave her lungs. He was devastating. Not handsome in a safe, friendly way, but beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, all sharp angles and lethal elegance. Dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls, a jawline that could cut glass, lips that curved into something between a smile and a promise of sin. He slid onto the bar stool next to hers with the fluid grace of a panther, his expensive suit tailored to perfection, highlighting broad shoulders and a lean, athletic build. The scent of his cologne, something dark, woody, and undeniably masculine, wrapped around her like smoke. Maybe I am, Linda heard herself say, her voice huskier than intended. The wine was making her reckless. The heartbreak was making her not care. Then let me help. He signaled the bartender with 2 fingers, his movements confident, practiced. When he turned back to her, his gaze was intense enough to make heat pool low in her belly. Minjun. Linda. Her name felt different on her tongue with him this close. Beautiful name for a beautiful woman. His eyes traveled over her face slowly, deliberately, like he was memorizing every feature. What brings someone like you to a place like this, drowning sorrows alone? Someone like me. Stunning. Dangerously vulnerable. He accepted 2 fresh drinks from the bartender, handed one to her. Their fingers brushed, and Linda felt that small contact like an electric shock. The kind of woman who should never be left crying in a bar. She should have been offended by the presumption. Should have rolled her eyes at the obvious line. But something in his voice, rough velvet over steel, made it feel like truth instead of flattery. 2 years, she found herself saying. Ended via text message tonight. His loss. Minjun's voice dropped lower, more intimate. His massive, idiotic loss. You don't even know me. I know enough. He shifted closer, and Linda became hyper-aware of every inch of space between them, or lack thereof. I know you're beautiful when you're broken. I know you deserve better than text message breakups. I know. His eyes dropped to her lips, then slowly back up. I know I want to know more. Linda's heart hammered against her ribs. What about you? What are you drowning? Expectations. Obligations. The weight of being someone I'm not sure I want to be. He took a long drink, and Linda found herself watching the movement of his throat. My parents want me to marry a nice Korean girl from a good Korean family. Preserve the bloodline. Maintain appearances. Be the perfect son. Sounds suffocating. It is. His hand moved to the bar, closer to hers. Not touching, but close enough that she could feel the heat of his skin. Which is why tonight, I don't want to be that person. Tonight, I just want to be a man sitting next to a beautiful woman who makes me forget every rule I'm supposed to follow. The air between them crackled with tension. Linda knew she should leave. Should go home, sleep off the wine, wake up and deal with her heartbreak like a responsible adult. But she didn't want to be responsible. She wanted to forget. She wanted to feel wanted. You're dangerous, she said softly, her eyes locked on his. Probably. His lips curved into a smile that was pure sin. Want to be dangerous with me? They talked, or maybe talked wasn't the right word. They circled each other verbally, each revelation more intimate than the last, each shared pain drawing them closer. The alcohol flowed. The barriers dissolved. At some point, his hand covered hers on the bar, and the contact sent fire racing through her veins. Your ex is a fool, Minjun said, his thumb tracing slow circles on the back of her hand. Anyone who would let you go. I can't even comprehend it. Bold words from a stranger. We're not strangers anymore. His other hand came up, fingers ghosting along her jawline with a touch so light it made her shiver. Are we, Linda? She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the wine buzzing through her system, the grief of her breakup, the dangerous attraction pulling her toward this beautiful, broken man. The rain's getting worse, she heard herself say, though thunder and lightning could have been tearing the sky apart and she wouldn't have cared. I have an umbrella. His voice was rough now, loaded with unspoken intention. Let me walk you home. That's. Linda paused, her last shred of common sense fighting a losing battle against desire and wine and the need to feel something other than heartbreak. That's probably a bad idea. Probably. His hand slid from her jaw to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair, and Linda's eyes fluttered closed. The question is, do you care? She didn't. God help her, she didn't. The walk to her apartment was a blur of rain and heat. His umbrella barely covering them both, forcing them close. His arm around her waist. Her body pressed against his side. Every step was torture and anticipation. In the elevator, with the doors barely closed, he pushed her against the wall. Tell me to stop, he breathed against her lips. His body pinning hers, hard and hot and exactly what she needed. Tell me this is a bad idea and I'll walk away. But Linda grabbed his jacket, pulled him closer. Don't stop. The kiss was explosive, all tongues and teeth and desperate need. His hands were everywhere, in her hair on her waist, sliding up her ribcage. She gasped into his mouth and he swallowed the sound, kissing her deeper, harder, until she couldn't remember why this was supposed to be wrong. The elevator dinged. They stumbled into the hallway, still kissing, her back hitting her apartment door as she fumbled for her keys. His mouth moved to her neck, sucking and biting, and she moaned, her head falling back against the door. Linda. Her name was a growl against her skin. If you want me to leave, say it now. Because once we're inside. She got the door open, pulled him inside, and slammed it shut behind them. They crashed together in her darkened apartment, shedding clothes in a desperate frenzy. His suit jacket hit the floor. Her dress pooled at her feet. His hands were everywhere, reverent and demanding, tracing every curve like he was trying to memorize her body through touch alone. "You're so beautiful," he breathed against her collarbone, his lips burning a trail down her skin. "So damn beautiful." Linda pulled his face back to hers, kissing him with all the hurt and need and reckless abandon coursing through her. His body was lean and hard against hers, every muscle defined, every touch electric. They tumbled onto her bed in a tangle of limbs and desire. His hands explored her curves with a kind of worship that made her feel like art. Her fingers traced the planes of his chest, his abs, drawing gasps from his lips that matched her own. "Tell me you want this," he demanded, his voice rough with need, his body poised above hers. "I want this," Linda breathed, pulling him down to her. "I want you." And then there were no more words. Just sensation, skin against skin, breath mingling with breath, pleasure building and building until it shattered them both. In the aftermath, they lay tangled together, the rain still pounding against the windows, their heartbeats slowly returning to normal. "That was..." Linda started but couldn't find the words. "A mistake," Minjun finished, but his arm tightened around her waist, contradicting his words. "Probably. Definitely." But neither of them moved to leave. They fell asleep like that, two broken people seeking comfort in each other's bodies, never imagining that one night of escape would change everything. 4 weeks later, the cafe was bright and sterile, full of couples and friends enjoying their weekend brunches. Linda felt nauseous, and it had nothing to do with morning sickness. Minjun sat across from her, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Gone was the passionate, vulnerable man from that rainy night. This was corporate Minjun, cold, controlled, distant. Pregnant. The word came out flat, emotionless, as he stared at the positive test she'd slid across the table. 8 weeks. Linda's hands shook in her lap. "I know we said it was just one night, but you need to take care of it." His voice was ice. "I'll pay for everything. The best clinic, private room, whatever you need. But you need to end this." Linda felt something crack in her chest. "Excuse me." "Linda, be reasonable." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "We had one drunken night. We barely know each other. I can't." He ran his hand through his hair, and for a second she saw panic beneath the ice. "My parents would never accept this. A child out of wedlock with a black woman. They'd disown me. Cut me off completely. So that's it." Linda's voice was quiet, deadly. "Because I'm black, this baby doesn't deserve to exist?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying, Minjun?" "Because it sounds like you're asking me to abort our child because your parents are racist." His jaw clenched. "I'm being practical. I can't marry you. My family would never allow it. What kind of life would this child have? Growing up knowing their father's family rejected them. That their father couldn't." He stopped, something flickering in his eyes. "I can't give you what you deserve. I can't give this child what they deserve. The child deserves to live," Linda said firmly. "And I'm keeping this baby. With or without you." Minjun's hands clenched on the table. "Then you're on your own." "Fine." But it wasn't fine. And he didn't stay away. When Zoe was born 8 months later, beautiful, perfect, with her mother's brown skin and her father's striking eyes, Minjun showed up at the hospital. He held his daughter and cried, and for one moment Linda let herself hope. "I'll support her financially," Minjun said, his voice thick with emotion as he stared at the baby in his arms. "I'll be in her life. I'll be a father to her. But Linda..." He looked up and his eyes were filled with pain. "I still can't marry you. Can't be with you. My parents..." "I never asked you to marry me," Linda cut him off, exhausted from labor and from loving a man who couldn't love her back the way she needed. "We'll co-parent. You live your life, I'll live mine. We'll both find people who actually want us. And we'll raise Zoe together, separately." They'd shaken on it like a business deal. Two people bound together by a beautiful baby girl and a night of passion that had felt like everything but meant nothing. At least, that's what Linda kept telling herself. Present day. Outside the restaurant, the February air bit at Linda's exposed arms, raising goosebumps on her brown skin. Zoe had stopped crying now that she was in her mother's arms, but she was making hungry little noises,
Oh, you poor
her
thing,
mouth
it's all
seeking
right.
Linda's chest. "This is the 5th time," Linda said, her voice shaking with a fury so profound it threatened to choke her. "The 5th time you've sabotaged my dates, Minjun. 5 times in 8 months. I didn't sabotage anything, Minjun said, but his eyes wouldn't quite meet hers, and she could see the lie in the set of his jaw. Zoe was hungry. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to feed her the breast milk I pumped and left in your fridge. Linda's voice rose, and she didn't care who heard. You were supposed to be a father and handle one damn evening, without running to me like some helpless child. She wouldn't take the bottle. She only wants you. Bullshit. The word exploded from her mouth, and Minjun's eyes widened slightly. You date your Korean models and your parent-approved princesses every other weekend without any problems. You go out, you stay out late, you wine and dine them at expensive restaurants. You live your whole damn life without a single interruption from me or Zoe. But the moment I try to move on, the moment I try to find someone who might actually want to be with me, you show up with our daughter like some kind of... She broke off, too angry to continue. Minjun's face hardened, his own anger finally showing through the manufactured concern. What do you want me to say, Linda? That I planned this? Did you? The silence stretched between them, heavy with accusation and truth unspoken. The sounds of the city filled the space. Traffic, distant conversation, the muted sounds of the restaurant they'd just fled. She needed her mother, Minjun finally said, but his voice lacked conviction, and they both knew it. Linda looked at him, really looked at him. At the man who had given her the most precious gift but refused to be part of the package. At the man who had touched her like she was worship-worthy that rain-soaked night, but now looked at her like she was an obligation. At the man who claimed he couldn't be with her, but apparently couldn't stand to see her with anyone else. I'm done, Linda said quietly, but her voice held steel. I'm done with this game, Minjun. You don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to reject me and control me at the same time. You don't get to break my heart and then break every chance I have at happiness. She turned and walked away, Zoe warm and safe in her arms, leaving Minjun standing alone outside the restaurant where he just destroyed her 5th chance at moving on. Behind her, she didn't see the conflicted expression on his face, the way his hands clenched at his sides, the way he watched her disappear down the street like a man watching his last chance at redemption slip through his fingers. She didn't see the way he whispered her name into the night like a prayer or a curse. He couldn't tell which anymore. Linda stared at her bedroom ceiling at 3 a.m, Zoe sleeping peacefully in the bassinet beside her bed, and let the rage crystallize into something sharp and purposeful. 5 dates, 5 men, 5 chances at finding someone who might actually want her, all destroyed by Minjun's calculated interference. The first time, she chalked it up to bad timing. New fatherhood adjustment period, genuine emergency. The second time raised suspicions. By the third she knew. And the 4th and 5th. Those were just Minjun twisting the knife, making sure she understood exactly how much control he still had over her life. Meanwhile, he paraded his parade of Korean beauties without a single interruption. Last month, she'd seen photos on his Instagram. Him and some willowy model at a gallery opening. Her hand possessively on his arm, both of them looking like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. The month before that, a different woman, equally perfect, equally Korean, equally acceptable to his precious family. Linda had maintained radio silence during all of it. Had been the bigger person. Had focused on co-parenting and moving on with grace and dignity. And where had that gotten her? Alone, humiliated, and apparently destined to be single for the rest of her life because Minjun had decided that if he couldn't have her, nobody could. Well, fuck that. Fuck dignity. Fuck grace. Fuck being the bigger person. If Minjun wanted to play games, Linda was about to show him she could play too. And she played to win. She picked up her phone, scrolling through her Instagram until she found what she was looking for. Minjun's latest post from 2 days ago. Him and his newest girlfriend, Hyejin, at some upscale restaurant. Hyejin was stunning, of course. A model signed to one of Korea's top agencies, all long legs and delicate features. Her arm wrapped around Minjun like she owned him. The caption read, "Perfect evening with my perfect girl Red Heart." Linda felt something dark and satisfying unfurl in her chest. Perfect, huh? Let's see how perfect things stay. The plan came to her fully formed, like a gift from the universe. It was petty. It was manipulative. It was absolutely beneath her. It was perfect. She waited until the day before Valentine's Day, when it was her turn to drop Zoe off at Minjun's apartment for his overnight visit. She dressed carefully. Jeans that hugged her curves, a low-cut sweater that showed just enough cleavage to be distracting. Her hair in loose waves around her shoulders. Not obvious enough to raise suspicion, but enough to keep his attention scattered. She stopped at a lingerie boutique on the way, selecting a pair of red G-string panties. Lacy, expensive looking, definitely not her size. She paid in cash, tucked them into her purse, and felt her heart racing with anticipation and nerves. This was insane. This was beneath her. This was exactly what he deserved. Minjun answered the door with Zoe's diaper bag already packed, looking annoyingly good in gray sweatpants and a fitted black t-shirt. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered, and Linda caught a whiff of his cologne, the same one from that night 15 months ago. She pushed the memory aside and smiled sweetly. Hey, thanks for taking her tonight. Of course. He took Zoe from her arms, and their daughter immediately grabbed his face, babbling happily. The sight of them together made Linda's heart ache and her resolve waver for just a second. Then she remembered the restaurant. Ian's face. The whispers. The humiliation. Her resolve hardened. I updated her feeding schedule, Linda said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. And she's been a little fussy with the new formula, so I brought extra of the one she likes. She moved past him into the living room, very aware of his eyes following her. But stay distracted. You didn't have to come in, Minjun said, but he didn't sound bothered by it. I could have grabbed the bag from you at the door. I know, but I wanted to make sure you had everything. Linda set the diaper bag down, then made a show of looking around. Where's Hygiene? I thought she'd be here helping you prep for Valentine's tomorrow. Minjun's jaw tightened slightly. She's at a photo shoot. She'll be here later. Linda pulled out the feeding schedule, bringing it to him. As he shifted Zoe to one arm to take the paper, Linda let her fingers brush against his, lingering just a second too long. His eyes snapped to hers, something flickering in their depths. Linda. I also brought some of her favorite toys, Linda continued, moving toward his bedroom before he could stop her. The purple elephant. She won't sleep without it lately. It's in the wait you don't need to. But Linda was already in his bedroom, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. The room was exactly as she remembered from the one time she'd been here. Sleek, modern, masculine. The bed was made with military precision, everything in its place. She pulled the purple elephant from the diaper bag, set it on the nightstand, and then, heart in her throat, opened the nightstand drawer as if looking for something. What are you doing? Minjun appeared in the doorway, Zoe still in his arms. His expression confused. Just checking if you have any pacifiers in here, Linda said smoothly. Her hand already sliding the red G-string from her pocket into the back of the drawer, tucking it behind what looked like a watch box. I thought I left some here last time. They're in the kitchen. Minjun's voice was tight. Linda, seriously, you don't need to. Found them. Linda closed the drawer, turning with a bright smile that felt like acid on her tongue. All set. She should be good for tonight. She walked past him, letting her body brush against his in the doorway. Just enough contact to be noticeable, not enough to be obvious. She felt him tense, heard his sharp intake of breath. Thanks again for taking her, Linda said, grabbing her purse. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day with Hygiene tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be perfect. She left before he could respond, her hands shaking as she got into her car. For a moment she sat there, gripping the steering wheel, wondering if she'd actually gone through with it. Then she started the engine and drove away, feeling powerful and terrified in equal measure. Hygiene arrived at Minjun's apartment at 8 p.m., carrying an overnight bag and a bottle of expensive wine, ready for a romantic evening before their big Valentine's Day plans tomorrow. Baby, she called out, letting herself in with her key. I brought that wine you love. Minjun emerged from the nursery, looking exhausted. Zoe had been fussy all evening, fighting sleep, and he'd finally just gotten her down. Hey, he said, pulling Hygiene in for a kiss. Sorry, Zoe's been difficult tonight. Poor baby. Hygiene set the wine down, wrapping her arms around his neck. Both of you. But she's asleep now, which means. She kissed him deeper, her hands sliding under his shirt. We have the whole evening to ourselves. Minjun let himself get lost in the kiss, trying to ignore the weird tension he'd felt since Linda left. Something about the way she'd acted had been off, but he couldn't put his finger on what. Let me just change, Hygiene said, pulling back with a sultry smile. I brought something special to wear. She grabbed her overnight bag and disappeared into his bedroom. Minjun opened the wine, pouring 2 glasses, trying to shake the uneasy feeling in his gut. Then he heard it. What the fuck is this? The voice was ice and fire combined. Minjun's blood ran cold as he rushed to the bedroom. Hygiene stood by his nightstand, the drawer open, holding a pair of red lace G-string panties between 2 fingers like they were contaminated. Her face was a mask of fury and hurt. Hygiene! Don't! Her voice cracked. Don't you dare! What the fuck are these doing in your nightstand, Minjun? I don't, those aren't. Minjun's mind raced, genuine confusion mixing with rising panic. I've never seen those before. Bullshit. Hygiene threw the panties at him. They're in your drawer. Your nightstand. Where you keep your personal things. I swear to God, I don't know how those got there. Minjun's voice rose, desperation creeping in. Hygiene, please, you have to believe me. Believe you? She laughed, but it was bitter and broken. How stupid do you think I am? These are fresh, Minjun. They even smell like perfume. Were you with her today? Yesterday? How long has this been going on? There is no this. I haven't been with anyone. Minjun reached for her, but she jerked away. Those could have been there for months. They could be from. From who? Your baby mama. Hygiene's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Is that it? Are you still Linda? No. Jesus Christ, no. The accusation hit him like a slap. I haven't touched Linda since. We're just co-parenting. Then whose are they? Hygiene demanded, her voice breaking. Whose underwear is in your drawer, Minjun? And Minjun had no answer. Because he genuinely didn't know. His mind was spinning, trying to figure out how women's lingerie had ended up in his nightstand, when the last woman in this bedroom besides Hygiene had been Linda. This afternoon. In this room. Opening this exact drawer. The realization hit him like a freight train. That bitch, he breathed. Excuse me. Hygiene's voice went dangerously quiet. Not you, Linda. She was here this afternoon. She went into this room. She opened that drawer. Minjun ran his hands through his hair, the pieces clicking into place with horrifying clarity. She planted them. This is revenge. Revenge for what? Hygiene grabbed her bag, started shoving her things back into it. For being a lying, cheating asshole. I'm sure she has plenty of reasons. I'm not cheating. Minjun grabbed her arm, desperate. Hygiene, please think about this. Why would I be stupid enough to keep another woman's underwear in my nightstand where you could easily find them? I don't know, Minjun. Why would you sabotage your baby mama's dates 5 times in 8 months? Hygiene yanked her arm free, and Minjun felt ice flood his veins. Oh yes, I know about that. My friend saw you at that restaurant on Valentine's Day, making a scene with your crying baby. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't know you're obsessed with her? I'm not obsessed with her. Then why can't you let her move on? Hygiene zipped her bag, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. Why do you sabotage every relationship she tries to have? What is she to you, Minjun? Because she's clearly more than just your co-parent. Minjun struggled for words, his chest tight. She's the mother of my child. That's it. Liar. Hygiene's voice was soft now, defeated. You're a liar. To me, to her, to yourself. I don't know what's going on between you two, but I'm done being part of it. Hygiene, please. We're done. She walked past him, heading for the door. Lose my number. And for what it's worth, I hope you end up alone. You deserve it. The door slammed behind her with a finality that shook the apartment. Minjun stood frozen in his bedroom, the red G-string still on the floor where it had fallen, reality crashing down around him. Linda had done this. Linda had deliberately sabotaged his relationship, planted evidence, and walked away with that sweet smile on her face. The audacity. The manipulation. The brilliance, a traitorous part of his mind whispered. She'd played him perfectly, used his own tactics against him, and he'd walked right into it. He should have been impressed. Instead, he was furious. Minjun didn't sleep that night. He paced his apartment while Zoe slept peacefully in the nursery. His mind replaying every moment of Linda's visit, seeing it all clearly now. The casual touching, the trip to his bedroom, the way she'd opened that drawer. She'd played him, just like he'd been playing her. By the time dawn broke on Valentine's Day, his fury had reached a boiling point. Linda thought she could manipulate him. Sabotage his relationship. Fight back. Fine. Game on. He fed Zoe, changed her, bundled her into her carrier. Checked Linda's Instagram. She'd posted a story earlier that morning. Excited for tonight. Red heart, with a photo of a red dress laid out on her bed. Another date. Course. Minjun looked at his daughter, at her innocent face, and felt a twist of guilt. But it was drowned out by rage and something else. Something possessive and dark that he didn't want to examine too closely. Come on, baby girl, he said, grabbing his keys. Let's go visit mommy. He knew exactly where Linda would be. The same upscale Italian restaurant she'd been posting about all week. The same place where she'd planned to have her perfect Valentine's date. Well, Linda wanted revenge. He'd show her revenge. By the time he pushed through those restaurant doors, Zoe crying in his arms, Linda's shocked face staring at him across the candlelit table, Minjun felt a savage satisfaction. Let her see how it felt to have everything ruined. Let her understand that this war she'd started had casualties on both sides. And if a small, buried part of him whispered that maybe he was doing this because he couldn't stand seeing her with another man, that maybe hygiene had been right about his obsession, well, he'd deal with that later. Right now he had a date to destroy. Linda's hands shook so violently as she unlocked her apartment door that she nearly dropped her keys twice. Minjun stood behind her, Zoe quiet now in his arms, both of them following her inside like this was normal, like he hadn't just destroyed her life for the 5th time. The moment the door closed, Linda whirled on him. Give her to me. Linda. Give her me. Her voice was deadly quiet, each word enunciated with razor precision. Minjun hesitated, then handed Zoe over. The baby whimpered slightly at the tension radiating from her mother but settled against Linda's chest. Her tiny hand fisting in the fabric of the red dress that was supposed to have made this night special. Linda walked to the nursery, laid Zoe gently in her crib, turned on the mobile, and stood there for a moment, forcing herself to breathe, to calm down enough that she wouldn't lose her mind in front of their daughter. When she walked back into the living room, Minjun was standing in the middle of her space like he had every right to be there. His jaw set, his eyes hard. We need to talk about, he started. About what? Linda cut him off, her voice rising. About how you just humiliated me in front of an entire restaurant. About how you sabotaged another one of my dates. Or should we talk about the red G-string, Minjun? Should we talk about how you deserved every second of what hygiene did to you? His eyes flashed dangerously. You had no right. No right. Linda laughed, but it was a harsh, broken sound. I had no right. You've destroyed 5 of my dates in 8 months. 5 men who were interested in me, who wanted to get to know me, who might have actually wanted to be with me. And you ruined every single one. I was taking care of our daughter. Bullshit. Linda threw her purse across the room, and it hit the wall with a satisfying thud. You were manipulating me. You were controlling me. Meanwhile, you parade your perfect Korean girlfriends all over Instagram without a single interruption from me. You wine them and dine them and fuck them, and I stay silent because I'm trying to be mature, trying to be the bigger person, trying to let you live your life. What did you want me to do, Linda? Minjun's voice rose to match hers. Apologize for dating. For trying to move on with my life. No, you asshole, I wanted you to let me do the same. She was shouting now, all the rage and hurt from 15 months pouring out. But you can't, can you? You can't let me be happy because if I find someone else, if I move on, then you lose your power over me. Power. Minjun stepped closer, his face dark with anger. You think this is about power? You planted evidence in my apartment to destroy my relationship. You manipulated and lied and sabotaged me. I gave you a taste of your own medicine. Linda's chest heaved, tears of fury burning in her eyes. How did it feel, Minjun? How did it feel to watch something good fall apart because someone else decided to interfere? How did it feel to be humiliated and helpless? You're insane. I'm insane. Linda grabbed a throw pillow from the couch and hurled it at him. You show up at my dates with our crying baby like some psychotic ex-boyfriend, and I'm the one who's insane? I am her father. Minjun batted the pillow away. I have every right to bring her to you when she needs you. She didn't need me. She needed you to be a competent parent for one goddamn evening. Linda's voice cracked. But you can't do that, can you? Because keeping me in limbo is more important than our daughter's well-being. Keeping you in limbo. Minjun's laugh was bitter. What the hell are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Linda's whole body trembled with the force of her emotions. You wanted to keep me in this horrible middle ground where I'm not good enough to marry, not good enough to bring home to your precious parents, but also not free to move on and find someone who actually wants me. You want me stuck, alone, available for you to control. That's not, I never. Minjun ran his hands through his hair, his own anger wavering for a moment. I told you from the beginning what my life required. I was honest about what I could and couldn't give you. Honest. Linda's voice dropped to something dangerous. You were honest. You slept with me, Minjun. You touched me like I was precious, like I mattered. And then you told me to get rid of our baby because I wasn't Korean enough for your family. I never said that. You didn't have to. Tears were streaming down Linda's face now, hot and angry. You made it crystal clear that I wasn't good enough. That our daughter wasn't good enough. That we were this shameful secret you had to manage instead of a family you could be proud of. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Oh, I understand perfectly. Linda's voice was raw. You were too much of a coward to stand up to your parents, so you made me the villain. You made me the one who trapped you, who ruined your perfect life, who forced you into a situation you never wanted. You did trap me. The words exploded out of Minjun, and Linda felt them like a physical blow. I told you what would happen if you kept that baby. I told you my parents would never accept it. I told you what my life required, and you went ahead anyway. The silence that followed was deafening. Linda stared at him, something breaking inside her chest that she didn't think could break anymore. Get out. Linda. Get out of my apartment. Her voice was barely above a whisper now. Get out before I say something I can't take back. We need to finish this. Finish this. Linda's laugh was hollow. You just told me our daughter trapped you. You just confirmed every horrible thing I felt for the past 15 months. What else is there to say? Minjun's face had gone pale, like he was realizing what he'd just said. I didn't mean that came out wrong. Did it? Linda wiped at her tears with shaking hands. Or did you finally just say what you've been thinking this whole time? That Zoe was a mistake. That I forced you into this nightmare of a situation. No, Minjun's voice cracked. I love Zoe. God, Linda, I love her so much it terrifies me. But you have to understand what it's been like for me. My parents won't even acknowledge she exists. My mother hangs up when I try to talk about her. My father threatened to disown me if I put her in any family photos. I've lost relationships, opportunities, respect in my community. And you blame me for that. It wasn't a question. I blame. Minjun slumped against the wall, looking suddenly exhausted. I don't know who I blame anymore. I blame myself for being weak. I blame my parents for their prejudice. I blame you for making me fall. He stopped abruptly. For making you fall for what? Linda demanded. Say it. It doesn't matter. Say it. For making me fall for you that night. Minjun's voice rose again, frustration and pain mixing together. For making me want something I couldn't have. For being exactly the kind of woman I could fall in love with if my life was different, if my family was different, if I was different. Linda's breath caught, but before she could respond, a sound cut through the tension like a knife. Zoe was crying. Not her normal fussy cry, but a distressed wail that spoke of fear and upset. Both Linda and Minjun froze, the fight draining out of them instantly. She doesn't cry like that. Linda was already moving toward the nursery, Minjun right behind her. Zoe was standing in her crib, holding onto the rails, her face red and wet with tears. The moment she saw both her parents, she reached out her arms, crying harder, her little body shaking. Oh baby, oh sweetheart. Linda scooped her up, but Zoe kept crying, reaching for Minjun too. I'm here, baby girl, daddy's here. Minjun moved close, his hand on Zoe's back, and their daughter grabbed onto both of them, trying to pull them together. Linda felt her heart crack open. Zoe could feel it, the tension, the anger, the toxic energy between her parents. Their 8-month-old daughter was distressed because she could sense their fighting. We need to calm down, Minjun said quietly, his voice rough. She's picking up on our emotions. Linda nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She sat down in the rocking chair, and Minjun knelt beside them, both of them making soothing sounds, trying to calm their daughter down. Slowly, Zoe's cries subsided into hiccuping sobs, then soft whimpers. She refused to let go of either parent, one hand fisted in Linda's dress, the other clutching Minjun's shirt. They stayed like that for a long time, rocking gently, neither of them speaking. The anger had burned out, leaving only exhaustion and shame in its wake. "What are we doing to her?" Linda finally whispered, looking down at Zoe's tear-stained face. Minjun's jaw clenched. "Exactly what I swore I'd never do. Exactly what my parents did to me. Making her feel the weight of our dysfunction. This has to stop." Linda's voice was firm despite the tears still on her cheeks. "This toxic cycle, this revenge, this... whatever this is between us. It has to stop." "I know." Minjun looked up at her, and for the first time in months, she saw genuine vulnerability in his eyes. "I know, and I don't know how to make it stop. Every time I see you with another man, I lose my mind. Every time I think about you moving on, finding someone who can give you what I can't, He stopped, shaking his head. "It's not fair to you. I know it's not fair. And I shouldn't have planted that G-string," Linda admitted quietly. "That was petty and manipulative, and I'm not proud of it. But Minjun, you've been torturing me for 8 months. Every date you ruined felt like you were telling me I didn't deserve happiness. That's not what I meant to." He paused, then corrected himself. "No, that's exactly what I did. And I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Linda." Zoe stirred between them, making a soft sound. They both looked down at her, at the beautiful child they'd created in one night of broken vulnerability. "We can't keep doing this," Linda said. "Not to her. Not to ourselves. No, we can't." Minjun's hand was still on Zoe's back, his fingers just inches from Linda's. "We need help. Professional help. We need to figure out how to co-parent without destroying each other in the process." Linda felt a flicker of hope despite everything. Couples therapy. Just focused on co-parenting. "Yes." Minjun nodded. "Real boundaries. Actual communication. Custody schedule we both stick to. No more sabotage. No more revenge. Just being parents. For her." "For her," Linda echoed, looking down at their daughter. Zoe had fallen asleep between them, her breathing even, one hand still holding onto each parent like she was trying to keep them together even in sleep. "I'll find a therapist who specializes in co-parenting," Minjun said quietly. "Someone who can help us navigate this mess." "Okay." Linda's voice was barely a whisper. "And Minjun, no more showing up at my dates. No more using Zoe as an excuse to interfere in my life." His jaw tightened, but he nodded. "And you. No more revenge plots. Deal." They sat in silence for a while longer, Zoe sleeping peacefully now that her parents had stopped fighting. Linda felt drained, hollowed out, but also oddly lighter. Like lancing a wound, painful but necessary. "I should put her in the crib," Linda finally said. "Let me." Minjun gently lifted Zoe from Linda's arms, and for a moment, their faces were close, their hands brushing as he took their daughter. Something passed between them, too complicated to name, too dangerous to acknowledge. Minjun laid Zoe carefully in her crib, tucking her blanket around her. He stood there for a long moment, watching their daughter sleep, before turning back to Linda. "I meant what I said earlier," he said quietly. "About that night. About you. I wasn't just saying that to win a fight." Linda's heart stuttered, but she forced herself to stay calm. "It doesn't matter. We can't. I know we can't." Minjun's smile was sad. "But I needed you to know anyway." He walked past her, headed for the door. Linda followed, her emotions a tangled mess she couldn't begin to sort through. At the door, Minjun paused. "I'll send you some therapist options tomorrow. We'll figure this out. For Zoe." "For Zoe," Linda agreed. He left without looking back, and Linda closed the door behind him, leaning against it and letting out a shaky breath. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. She walked back to the nursery, stood looking down at her sleeping daughter, and felt tears slip down her cheeks again. "I'm so sorry, baby girl," she whispered. "Mommy and Daddy are going to do better. Promise. We're going to figure this out." Zoe slept on, peaceful and perfect, unaware of the tentative truce her parents had just formed, unaware that sometimes the breaking point is the only way to start building something new. 3 months later, Dr. Sarah Chen's office had become familiar territory, The soft gray walls, the comfortable chairs positioned at careful angles, the box of tissues that Linda had needed more than once during their sessions. "So," Dr. Chen said, looking between them with a calm, assessing gaze that had become familiar. "How did the shared custody weekend go?" Linda glanced at Minjun, who gave a small nod, indicating she should answer first. "Better," Linda admitted. "We managed the transitions without any drama. Minjun even texted me updates throughout the weekend without me having to ask. That's significant progress." Dr. Chin made a note. "Minjun, how did it feel from your end?" "Good. Natural." Minjun shifted in his chair. "Linda sent me Zoe's updated nap schedule ahead of time, which helped. And when she got fussy on Saturday night, I called Linda for advice instead of just showing up." A small smile tugged at Linda's lips despite herself. 3 months ago, that sentence would have ended very differently. "I'm proud of both of you," Dr. Chen said. "When you first came to me, you were locked in a cycle of revenge and control. Now you're actually communicating. That's not easy work." It hadn't been easy. The first session had been brutal. Both of them defensive, attacking, unable to hear each other past their own pain. But Dr. Chen had been patient, firm, refusing to let them fall into old patterns. She'd made them create a custody schedule and actually stick to it. Made them communicate through a co-parenting app at first, keeping everything documented and professional. Made them examine their own behaviors, their own motivations, their own pain. Slowly, painfully, things had started to shift. "I have homework for you both this week," Dr. Chen said, and Linda braced herself. The homework was always the hardest part. "I want you to spend one evening together. The 3 of you. Not a custody exchange, not a medical appointment. Just family time. Dinner, a walk in the park, whatever feels natural." Linda's stomach flipped. "Together. Like, all of us." "Yes. Zoe needs to see you two interacting positively. She needs to know her parents can be in the same room without tension." Dr. Chen looked between them. "Can you do that?" Minjun met Linda's eyes, and something passed between them. Uncertainty, nervousness, but also possibility. "We can try," he said quietly. The family time happened on a Saturday afternoon at a park near Linda's apartment. Zoe, now 11 months old and pulling herself up on everything, was delighted to be outside, crawling through the grass with determination. "She's getting so fast," Minjun said, chasing after her as she made a beeline for a puddle. He scooped her up, and Zoe squealed with laughter, trying to squirm free. Linda watched them together, something warm unfurling in her chest. Minjun was good with Zoe. Patient, playful, gentle. She'd always known that intellectually, but seeing it without the filter of anger and resentment was different. "You're going to give her a complex if you never let her get dirty," Linda teased. Minjun looked up, surprised, then grinned. "Have you seen how much laundry one baby creates? I'm trying to minimize." "Liar. You're just a neat freak." Linda spread out the picnic blanket she'd brought. "Come on, let her explore a little." Minjun set Zoe down on the blanket, and she immediately grabbed for the toys Linda had packed. For a while they just sat there, watching their daughter play, the silence comfortable instead of tense. "Can I ask you something?" Minjun said eventually. Linda tensed slightly but nodded. "Okay." "That night, when we..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Did you ever regret it?" "Not Zoe, but the night itself." Linda considered the question, really thought about it. "Sometimes," she admitted. "When things were at their worst, when I hated you most, I wished it had never happened. But then I look at her, and I can't regret anything that brought her into the world. Even though I was an asshole about it. Even though you were a massive asshole about it." Linda smiled slightly. "What about you?" Minjun was quiet for a long moment, watching Zoe try to fit a round block into a square hole. "I regretted it every day for months. You terrified me. I terrified you. You made me want things I thought I couldn't have." His voice was low, honest. "That night, I felt more myself than I had in years. And then you were pregnant and it was like reality came crashing back. All the expectations, all the obligations, all the reasons why I couldn't just be happy." Linda's throat tightened. "Minjun. I was a coward," he continued, still not looking at her. "Dr. Chen helped me see that. I used my parents as an excuse because I was scared. Scared of disappointing them, yeah, but also scared of how much I wanted you. How much I wanted the life we could have had. The confession hung in the air between them. Zoe babbled happily, oblivious to the weight of her father's words. Why are you telling me this? Linda whispered. Because we're supposed to be honest now. Minjun finally looked at her, and his eyes were full of something that made her heart race. Because I'm tired of lying. To you, to myself, to everyone. Before Linda could respond, Zoe pulled herself up on Minjun's leg, wobbling precariously. They both reached for her instinctively, steadying her, and Zoe looked between them with a gummy smile. Then, with determination on her little face, she took one wobbly step forward. Then another. Oh my God, Linda breathed. Is she? Zoe took a third step before plopping down on her diaper-padded bottom, looking surprised and proud. She walked. Minjun's face was lit up with wonder. Did you see that? She took 3 steps. I saw. Linda was laughing and crying at the same time. Baby girl, you walked. They spent the next hour encouraging Zoe to do it again, both of them on the ground, taking turns being the destination she walked toward. Every successful step was celebrated with cheers and applause that made Zoe giggle and try again. In the midst of it all, their hands touched as they both reached to steady Zoe. Neither of them pulled away. 2 weeks later, Linda's phone rang at 2 in the morning. She answered it groggily, her heart already pounding with maternal panic. Linda. Minjun's voice was tight with worry. Zoe has a fever. It's 103 and she won't stop crying. I've given her the infant Tylenol, but I'm coming. Linda was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. Which hospital? Seoul National. I'm leaving now. They met in the emergency room, both of them disheveled and terrified. Zoe was screaming, her little body hot to the touch, and Linda took her immediately, trying to soothe her. How long has she been like this? She asked Minjun as they checked in. About an hour. She woke up crying, and when I felt her forehead. His voice cracked. She's never been this sick before. The next 48 hours blurred together in a nightmare of waiting rooms, tests, for fluids and sleepless vigils. The doctors determined it was a severe viral infection, scary but treatable. Zoe needed to stay for observation, and both Linda and Minjun refused to leave. They took turns holding her, soothing her, changing her. When one would doze off in the uncomfortable hospital chair, the other would keep watch. They barely spoke, all their energy focused on their daughter. On the second night, around 3 a.m., Zoe finally fell into a peaceful sleep, her fever broken. The relief was so profound that Linda started crying, silent tears streaming down her face. She's okay, Minjun said softly, moving his chair closer to Linda's. She's going to be okay. I know. Linda wiped at her face. I've never been so scared. Me neither. Minjun looked wrecked, his hair standing up from running his hands through it, dark circles under his eyes. His designer clothes rumpled and stained with baby spit up. When her fever wouldn't break, I kept thinking about everything I've done wrong, everything I've wasted, and He stopped, his jaw working. What? Linda prompted gently. I realized that these past 3 months, getting to actually know you, actually be part of Zoe's daily life, actually have something like a partnership with you. It's been the happiest I've been since that rainy night. He looked at her directly, exhaustion making him reckless with honesty. And I've been happy despite my parents' disapproval, despite losing hygiene, despite all the things I thought I needed. Because this, you and Zoe, this is what I actually need. Linda's breath caught. Minjun, you're exhausted. You don't know what you're saying. I'm saying I was a coward. His voice was fierce now, urgent. I used my parents as an excuse because I was scared. Scared of how much I felt for you after one night. Scared of wanting a life that didn't fit the plan I'd been following since birth. Scared of being disowned, yeah, but more scared of admitting that I'd rather be disowned than live without you and Zoe. You don't mean that. I do. He reached for her hand and she let him take it. These past months watching you with Zoe, talking to you in therapy, learning who you actually are beyond that one night. Linda, you're brilliant. You're funny and strong and such an incredible mother. You're everything I didn't let myself see before because I was too busy being terrified. Linda's heart was hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. What are you saying? I'm saying I want more than co-parenting appointments and scheduled custody exchanges. Minjun's thumb traced circles on the back of her hand, just like that first night. I'm saying I want family dinners and bedtime stories together. I want to be there when Zoe takes her first real steps, says her first words, starts school. I want. What do you want? Linda whispered. You. The word was simple, devastating. I want you, Linda. I want us to be a real family. I want to date you properly, court you, prove to you that I can be the man you and Zoe deserve. Your parents can accept us or not. I'm done letting them dictate my happiness. His eyes were fierce. I love my daughter. And I. He paused, swallowed hard. I think I've been falling in love with you since that rainy night, and I've been fighting it every day since. I don't want to fight it anymore. Linda felt tears slip down her cheeks again. You hurt me. So much. I know. And I will spend however long it takes making that up to you, if you'll let me. He brought her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. No pressure. If you're not ready, if you can't forgive me, I understand. We can keep things as they are. But I needed you to know. I needed to stop being a coward. Linda looked at him, really looked at him. At the vulnerability in his eyes, the hope and fear warring on his face, the way he was holding her hand like it was precious. 3 months ago, she would have laughed in his face. Would have thrown his confession back at him with all the venom she possessed. But 3 months of therapy had changed things. Had let her see past her hurt to the wounded, conflicted man behind it. Had shown her that Min-Jun was just as broken as she was, just in different ways. And damn her, she'd been falling too. Falling in the quiet moments, the shared smiles over Zoe's antics, the texts about nothing important that had become something she looked forward to. I can't promise anything, she said finally. You hurt me too much for this to be easy. I know. And we'd have to take it slow. Really slow. As slow as you need. And you'd have to actually stand up to your parents. Not just talk about it but really do it. Her voice was firm. I won't be your secret. Zoe won't be your secret. Never again, Min-Jun promised. I'll tell them tomorrow. Today. Right now if you want. Linda laughed, a watery, uncertain sound. Maybe wait until Zoe's discharged. So that's a yes. You'll give me a chance. It's a maybe. Linda's smile was tentative. It's a let's see where this goes. It's a I'm probably going to regret this but I'm willing to try. The smile that broke across Min-Jun's face was like sunrise, bright and warm and full of promise. I'll take it, he said softly. 2 weeks later. They hadn't kissed yet. Min-Jun was taking slow seriously, which Linda appreciated even as it frustrated her. They'd had 3 official dates. Dinner while Zoe stayed with Linda's friend, a movie, a walk along the Han River. All of them had been careful, tentative, both of them navigating this new territory like it was made of glass. But they'd also had a dozen unofficial moments. Shared dinners at Linda's apartment after Zoe went to sleep. Lazy Sunday mornings where Min-Jun would show up with coffee and pastries. Family outings to the park, the children's museum, the aquarium. Felt like building something. Slowly, carefully. Tonight, they were at Linda's apartment, having just put Zoe down after a particularly exhausting day. She'd been cranky from teething, and it had taken both of them an hour of rocking and singing to get her to sleep. I need a drink, Linda sighed, collapsing onto the couch. I need several. Min-Jun joined her, leaving a careful foot of space between them. Linda rolled her eyes and scooted closer, closing the gap. You can sit next to me, Min-Jun. I'm not going to bite. I'm trying to be respectful. I know. But I'm giving you permission to relax a little. She leaned her head on his shoulder, felt him tense and then slowly relax. See. Not so scary. You're terrifying, he said softly, and she could hear the smile in his voice. They sat like that for a while, a random drama playing on the TV that neither of them was really watching. Min-Jun's arm eventually came around her shoulders, pulling her closer, and Linda let herself sink into the warmth of him. This felt right. Easy. Natural. Can I ask you something? Min-Jun's voice rumbled through his chest. That night. When we... He paused. Do you remember what you said to me? Right before. Linda thought back, through the haze of alcohol and heartbreak and desire. I think I said a lot of things. You said you wanted to feel wanted. His arm tightened around her. You said your ex made you feel invisible. The memory surfaced, her vulnerable and raw, admitting things to a stranger she'd never admit sober. I remember, she said quietly. I want you to know, Minjun continued, his voice low and intense, that I see you. I've always seen you, even when I was too much of a coward to admit it. You're not invisible, Linda. You're all I can see. Linda lifted her head from his shoulder, looking up at him. His eyes were dark, sincere, full of something that made her chest ache. Minjun. I know I'm supposed to be taking this slow, he interrupted, his hand coming up to cup her face. But can I kiss you, please? I've been going insane trying to be patient. Linda's laugh was breathless. Finally. His lips met hers, and it was nothing like that first drunken kiss 15 months ago. This was careful, reverent, full of intention and promise. His hand cradled her face like she was something precious, and she melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Minjun pressed his forehead to hers. I'm falling in love with you, he whispered. I think I've been falling this whole time. You're an idiot, Linda whispered back, but she was smiling. A complete and total idiot. I know. And I'm probably an idiot too. She kissed him again, quick and sweet. Because I'm falling too. His smile was brilliant, beautiful, and when he kissed her again, deeper this time, Linda let herself fall completely. Behind them, the baby monitor crackled softly with Zoe's peaceful breathing, a reminder of what they'd created, what they'd almost destroyed, and what they were building together now. Slowly, carefully, but together. 6 months later, Linda woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Zoe's delighted giggles coming from the kitchen. She stretched, a smile already on her face, and padded out of her bedroom to find Minjun making pancakes while their daughter banged a wooden spoon against her high chair tray like a drum. You're supposed to be at your place, Linda said, leaning against the doorframe, still in her pajamas. Minjun looked up, and the smile that crossed his face made her heart flutter even after 6 months together. I missed you both. Is that a crime? You saw us yesterday. Exactly. Far too long. He flipped a pancake with practiced ease. When had he learned to cook? And then crossed to her, pulling her into his arms for a proper good morning kiss. Zoe banged her spoon harder, demanding attention, and they broke apart laughing. Jealous already? Minjun teased, going to their daughter and kissing the top of her head. Thank you for coming. His mother's eyes were locked on Zoe, drinking in every detail. The dark curls, the brown skin, the striking dark eyes that were exactly like Minjun's. She looks like you, his mother whispered. When you were a baby, you had that same expression. She acts like me too. Stubborn, particular about her food, hates being told no. Minjun's voice softened slightly. Zoe, can you say hello to Halmiani and Harabiaji? Zoe looked at the strangers with solemn interest, then buried her face in Minjun's shoulder shyly. It's okay, baby girl, Linda said softly, stepping closer to rub Zoe's back. They're family. Minjun's mother's eyes finally moved to Linda, and Linda braced herself for judgment, for coldness, for rejection. Instead she saw fear. I'm Linda, she said, extending her hand. It's nice to finally meet you properly. Mrs. Kim looked at Linda's hand for a long moment before taking it carefully, like it might burn her. I'm sorry for how we've behaved. For not, her voice cracked, for not being better. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. But it was a start. Would you like to hold her? Minjun asked his mother quietly. Mrs. Kim's eyes widened. May I? Minjun transferred Zoe into his mother's arms, and Linda watched as her daughter, her beautiful, perfect daughter, looked up at her grandmother with curious eyes. Hello, little one, Mrs. Kim whispered, and her voice shook. I'm your Halmiani. I'm sorry it took me so long to meet you. Zoe reached up and patted her grandmother's face, and Mrs. Kim's tears finally fell. She's beautiful, Minjun's father said gruffly, and Linda saw that his eyes were suspiciously bright too. She has the Kim eyes. She has her mother's spirit though, Minjun said, his arm coming around Linda's waist. Strong, resilient, doesn't take any nonsense. Linda looked up at him, saw the pride in his face, and felt her own tears threaten. They spent an hour at the park. Awkward, careful, but present. Minjun's parents asked questions about Zoe's milestones, her favorite foods, her personality. They were stiff with Linda, formal but not cruel. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even comfortable. But it was more than Linda had ever hoped for. Valentine's Day, 2 years later. Linda stared at the restaurant entrance, her heart pounding. "I can't believe you're making me go back here," she said, clutching Minjun's hand. "Trust me." He smiled, that secret smile that meant he was planning something. "Please." They'd been living together for 8 months now, officially engaged for 3, and planning a wedding that blended Korean and American traditions in a way that made both families happy, or at least willing to participate. Minjun's parents had come a long way. They had dinner with them twice a month now. Zoe called them halmiani and harabiaji and had them wrapped around her tiny finger. There was still tension, still moments of discomfort, but there was also love. Slowly growing, carefully tended, but real. Linda had thought that was the surprise for tonight. A nice dinner, maybe a romantic walk, celebrating how far they'd come. But as Minjun led her through the restaurant, the same restaurant where he destroyed her date 2 years ago, she realized something else was happening. The restaurant was empty except for one table in the center, covered in candles and roses. "Minjun, what? 2 years ago," he said, turning to face her. "I walked through those doors and destroyed your date. I humiliated you, manipulated you, and made your life hell because I was too much of a coward to admit what I really wanted. You don't have to. Let me finish." He smiled, but his eyes were serious. "I've spent the past 2 years trying to make up for that. Trying to prove that I could be the man you and Zoe deserve. And I hope I have, but I also know I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be better." He started to kneel, and Linda's breath caught. "Linda, I ruined your date here 2 years ago because the thought of you with someone else made me insane. Because even though I was too scared to claim you, I couldn't stand the thought of losing you." He pulled out a small box. Not the engagement ring she already wore, but something else. "Tonight, I want to make it right." He opened the box to reveal a second ring, a wedding band that matched her engagement ring perfectly. "I know we're already engaged. I know we're already planning the wedding. But I wanted to do this here, in this place, and ask you properly." His voice shook slightly. "Linda, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making up for that night? Will you let me love you and Zoe the way you both deserve?" Linda was crying, but she was also laughing. "You're so dramatic. We're literally already engaged. Is that a yes?" "It was a yes the first time you asked me, you idiot." She pulled him up and kissed him, tasting salt from her own tears. "Of course I'll marry you." The restaurant staff, who had apparently been hiding in the kitchen, burst into applause. The manager brought out champagne, and Linda realized Minjun had planned this whole thing. "You really are dramatic," she said again, but she was smiling so hard her face hurt. "I learned from the best." He kissed her again, soft and sweet. "I love you, both of you, and I promise to spend every day proving it." "You already do," Linda whispered. "Every single day." 6 months later. The wedding was small, just family and close friends in a garden venue that allowed them to blend traditions seamlessly. Linda wore a white dress with Korean embroidery on the bodice. Minjun wore a traditional hanbok for the ceremony, then changed into a Western suit for the reception. Zoe was the flower girl, toddling down the aisle in a tiny hanbok that matched her father's, throwing petals with more enthusiasm than accuracy. Minjun's mother had made it herself, had spent weeks on the embroidery, making it perfect for her granddaughter. When Linda walked down the aisle on her father's arm, Minjun's face crumpled with emotion. She saw him mouth, "I love you," before she even reached him. The ceremony blended English and Korean, had both a traditional Korean paebik and Western vows. When Minjun's parents bowed to Linda, formally welcoming her into the family, Linda saw tears streaming down Mrs. Kim's face. "Don't be. Because you were right, in a way." She smiled up at him. "I did trap you. But you trapped me too. We trapped each other that rainy night. And it was messy and painful, and we both fought it so hard. And now I'm grateful." She stood on her toes to kiss him. Grateful for that night, for Zoe, for every fight and every mistake that brought us here. Zoe stirred in Minjun's arms, making a sleepy sound. They both looked down at their daughter, their miracle, their challenge, their greatest gift. "Come on," Linda said. "Let's go home." "All 3 of us," Minjun agreed. They walked back inside together, a family built from chaos and mistakes, from one drunken night and 2 years of learning how to love each other properly. It wasn't the love story anyone would have written for them. But it was theirs, and it was real, and it was beautiful. And it had started with a crying baby, a ruined date, and a man too afraid to admit what he really wanted. Now, standing in the garden with her husband and daughter, Linda couldn't imagine wanting anything else. This was love that broke all the rules. This was love that survived despite itself. This was love that started unexpectedly but stood the test of time. And it was worth every painful step it took to get here.